I'm very happy to be here again in Chemnitz. I always have a good time here. And I'm happy to see some of you again and to meet others. Maybe there will be time later to talk. So I'm going to try to, I have too many slides to show you, so I'll do a little bit about mobile UX design trends, and if there's time, I'll show you some of the projects we have been working on concerning mobile persuasion design, which is also part of mobile user experience. What I'm going to show you will be very eclectic, eccentric, my personal opinion, and I've given Professor Eibel a collection of recent articles that I have not had time to add to this presentation, so you can see what I will be looking at about the Apple 6 and iPhone 6 and so on. This is a little bit earlier, from about July and August. I'll try to look at some recent trends, new platforms, new metaphors, new ideas about navigation, etc. I'm sure that many of you have seen the coming of the Amazon Fire phone, which is almost being given away now. And it was interesting and important for its use of 3D images, tilting to scroll movement, and most importantly for Amazon, the ability to purchase things very quickly with one-touch shopping. And of course that's why they can and hope to just give away the phone if they have to, because it will lead to many people being caught in the world of Amazon purchasing. Some of you have perhaps seen Vine going somewhat viral. Ability to send very short video messages and to share them. By the way, I will make available a PDF printout of this whole lecture. So Professor Eibel will, for some of you who are not on the regular distribution, if you're visiting, then if you write your email address, I'll give it to him and you'll get all the information. So it is interesting, like photos that disappear here, 6-second videos. The average video on YouTube is quite short, and we're having shorter and shorter attention spans to anything. It makes you wonder whether anyone will be able to concentrate on a story that's longer than 20 seconds or a 30-minute television commercial. I don't know what that says about our storytelling habits. There is recently a comparison of the best email applications for Android and iPhone apps that emphasize the good qualities, the good functionality that are coming finally to some of these mobile phone providers. The applications are smarter for composing messages, for saving them, and for easily searching through them. I don't know if you have followed Line in Japan. It's very successful. It trails WhatsApp and China's WeChat in terms of the number of users. It's not anywhere near as big as the other two, but it was growing fast in China. Here's an interesting approach to a mobile phone. Google is expanding in many different directions, not only Google Glass or glasses, but many other kinds of hardware and software, and this is interesting as a kit of equipment which the consumer can assemble, and it only costs about $50 to make this phone. I don't know if it has been officially released. Samsung's equipment, GearFit, has been in the news along with other health-related applications, certainly with the new Apple emphasis on health in the iPhone 6. But Samsung actually has been working for many years on creating health-related equipment, equipment and complex applications to store medical data. With the new iPhone 6 health system, the people have said, as you may know yourself if you have the phone, I don't have it, I have an older one, that it's very clinical and is sort of like registering for a hospital to enter all the data that you have to maintain if you want the phone to take care of your health data. And other people say that this is clumsy and not very friendly, but it's all trying to get ready for Apple's iWatch to be a better health sensor for your body. I think we'll be seeing, as I say elsewhere in this presentation, many applications of this kind. Maybe some of you have followed Google's Nest product for managing heating and ventilation equipment, and also for a smoke detector. This device was supposed to react to waving gestures, but because we sometimes move our hands and wave in a room anyway, the device was misreading people's movements, which points to the problem of a lot of hand gestures, that they are ambiguous, and there's a lot that needs to be improved. The single touch and multi-touch gestures that have been developed worldwide are quite varied. They are different for different manufacturers. There are no universal standards that I know of. There have been attempts to suggest cross-machine, cross-application gesture languages, but the ones that have been proposed, and I'm thinking specifically of a study that was presented at User Experience Professionals Association in Munich in 2011, was kind of crazy. It didn't seem to be so well thought out, but they were trying to suggest universal gesture symbols or signs based on a study of maybe 8 or 10 different countries and what people were familiar with. And it turns out that those were very dependent upon people's exposure to pen-based systems and those gestures versus finger-based systems. And now with free hand gesturing, since Wii and Xbox, etc., it's even more diverse. I don't know, I can't even predict when we'll have very widely distributed conventions, like we have for highway road signs, traffic signs, which are international and well understood around the world. Another place where gestures are starting to appear are in vehicles to control heating, ventilation, to change radio stations, etc. I imagine that these will also be quite confusing for people and perhaps misinterpreted by the vehicle, because you'll really be gesturing to someone in the back seat or to your riding partner, and meanwhile the vehicle will do something to change stations because you went like that, or you said to your spouse, "shh," and the radio goes off. Maybe people are familiar with Siri from Apple's iPhone to answer questions. Microsoft has introduced Cortana, which is supposed to be more funny or sassy or spicy, and it can perhaps do a few more things than Siri can. It also suggests that these voice response systems will develop more and more exotic personalities, as we saw in the movie Her, if you saw that movie, about a very smart AI voice response system. Of course, it was a complete fake, and it was very pleasant to have, what's her name, the movie star? Scarlett Johansson, thank you, who could forget? To have her breathy voice in the background talking to you would be quite lovely for some people. And maybe that's what we will have in the future, which is a whole suite of personalities, including licensed personalities from Scarlett Johansson and other people who will be glad to make even more money for having their voices be the answer to all your questions. Fitness trackers are finally becoming somewhat stylish and more effective, more productive, with more functionality. My wife is now a Fitbit junkie. Really, every morning she analyzes her sleep to see how much she slept. She's got a connector to her Apple computer, and the first thing she does in the morning after her coffee is check her Fitbit score to see how many hours of uninterrupted sleep she had and how many times she interrupted, and now she can obsess about something new. And she enjoys it, and it keeps her busy. And I think this will be very attractive to those people who like to obsess about how well they slept last night. I don't know if your toothbrush is smart. I think I have in this lecture somewhere even a smart fork. This wonderful set of eating utensils developed by a researcher in Japan that can tell you if the food is too hot, or someday we'll also be able to analyze all of the ingredients and tell you, are you sure you want to put that in your mouth? It's 230 more calories. But you can imagine that these devices, everything will be talking to us or sending us messages. And we will have to have our own message manager to manage all the messages from our smart chairs, our smart tables, our smart water bottles, our smart toothbrushes. By that point, we will not be so smart. We won't be able to manage or understand and appreciate all these messages or have time for them. I hope some of you will come along with very smart message managers from all of our smart objects in the world, the internet world of things. Some of you have no doubt heard of and followed GoPro and the ability of sturdy little cameras to do things which your phone can do, but the GoPro is better in some ways because it's a little camera with suction cups, and you can put it anywhere, stick it on your helmet for your bicycle ride or on the bicycle, and see things in a way that you've never seen before. GoPro is now lowering the price, creating consumer-oriented products to try to expand its reach into the minds and into the wallets of people, to let others around the world make and share exotic photo and video feeds. Perhaps the most extreme form of these mobile accessories is an implant for our brain, which will improve our memory, or our vision, or our hearing. And no one knows for sure exactly when these will arrive for mass use, but maybe we should turn down some of the lights so the image is a little darker. The control panel is there, but I will not attempt to interpret it. That's turning, yeah, that's good. That should be better, yes? So, they have been used in some cases for people with brain damage, but we're talking about the general use of them for everyone to improve our human abilities. Many people are experimenting with 3D printers in various ways. This was a project which I reviewed last June at the California College of Arts, an undergraduate design thesis of someone who was producing printed food, in which you can now ask different questions about your food. Would you like Italian or Chinese? That we know. But would you like it triangular or round? Would you like the surface to be rough or smooth? Would you like it to be green, yellow, or blue? These choices now for your food are or will be available, including all of the additional nutrient, organic, safe, healthful properties of the food. And what she did, in addition to actually designing and printing some food, is create mobile app access concept design for selecting all these attributes of food. So not only will you be able to order from the restaurant, but you'll be able to order things specifically with the topology, the color, etc., and other perceptual attributes that have never before been available to you in quite this way. This is a smart ring project using near-field communication that was a concept design from another group of students that I reviewed at the end of the last academic year at the University of California, Berkeley, in the Haas Business School, which has a new product development or new product design course. This project was sponsored or guided or mentored by some representatives from Samsung. So I imagine that they're interested as well in rings that require you to actually shake hands with someone in order to complete communication transfer of acceptable data exchange with someone else. Sort of safe communication, like safe sex. And this is culturally interesting because not all communities shake hands. Some bow and don't touch their bodies, and maybe with Ebola frightening us, we will cease to have any body touching and just give air kisses to all of our relatives. So this may be culture bound in some ways. But it's just one example of wearables catching on as a development form and requiring new thinking and new design for both the external features of these wearables as well as the user interface and user experience aspects of these forms. This is a headpiece or crown or hat developed by two people in Hong Kong originally, Professor Patricia Flanagan in Hong Kong and Katya Vega, who is now in Brazil. And it was a rather exotic and beautiful device connected by conducting strips to the eyelashes of the person so that when she blinks, lights flash up here, and if you want to attract someone and give them a little wink, you can make it even stronger up here if you wish. Katya Vega wants to be the queen of beauty technology. She is focusing her R&D efforts on all sorts of things like fingernail enhancements, facial cosmetics, jewelry, etc., which are worn by women and men. And I'm sure that many of the major cosmetics and beauty manufacturers around the world will soon be beating a path to her door. This was so interesting and delightful when I first saw it in Japan at a conference. I arranged to have it on the cover of a special issue of User Experience magazine that I edited on the future of UX experience based on thinking about science fiction, which was, of course, related and in debt to my original invitation to come here and lecture on that topic. There is a very good resource here that maybe some of you cannot even read. Right at the bottom. They publish always the latest rumors about mobile, especially wrist-top devices. They have a really, really good selection, and if you want to find out the latest and greatest, I suggest you go there. I don't have here, but it's in the material that I'll send to you. They must have had 100 or more speculations about the design of round Apple iWatches or rectangular watches designed by many people around the world. This is what they thought. Actually, they guessed more correctly by having a rectangular watch for the Apple's introduction. And there were guesses about Motorola and Google introducing watches, a new Spot watch. We worked with the original version of this for Microsoft when it was only black and white, 100 pixels by 100 pixels. That was a design challenge. LG and others have produced similar concepts. Here's one using e-ink, which is powering some e-readers and is helpful because you can keep it on and displaying all the time. Here are watches that you may never have heard about but may hear in the future, dual core CPUs on your smartwatch with all kinds of sensors. Many of these Chinese companies are loading them up with body sensors and near-field communication capabilities, functionality which has yet to hit North American and European entries into the smartwatch era. Here is one with 2 cameras. Kind of another direction, Motorola announced late last year production of a special, less expensive mobile phone for Brazil, China, Chile, and Peru, not China, where they estimated they had about 500 million people to sell to. So they didn't have all the features that the smartest smartphones would have, and as a result, they could be far less expensive. As I said, this tour has been and will be very eclectic. We're about halfway through the world tour, and I'm only about a tenth through my slides. So I'll show you a few more, and then I'll just stop and move to another subject, related subject of mobile persuasion design, and then try to answer any questions that you have. So many of these new mobile devices have to pick new metaphors to help people understand what does the device or the application do. And they try to pick them sometimes, if they can, from real-world experience, which is familiar to people. Like nothing more than turning pages in a book, and how that might be done on e-readers or phone applications that have to change from one page to another. Now, making this look very realistic, as you may know, is called skeuomorphism, and there's been a very big debate, there was a big debate, in the Apple community, because Apple for many years spent a lot of time making things look very realistic, and often slightly old or obsolete. Apple has changed things now with the latest operating systems. The calendar application, even on the MacBook Pro, used to have little bits of torn paper at the top where someone had ripped off the previous month's calendar page, and now you're looking at the latest one. I found these things not particularly attractive, slightly stupid, and a waste of pixels. But somebody at Apple thought they were great for many years. Now Apple has moved to a new style called Light, which is like going from obese to morbidly underweight. The messages and the numbers are so thin and light that even under good viewing conditions it may be hard to see them. So they went from one extreme to another extreme, trying to be different and trying to catch up and be more like other hip things going on, and they completely passed through the usable middle, where I wish they had landed. Here's a little iPhone app with a pocket guitar, so you can play your guitar on the iPhone, and maybe you can put together 10 iPhones in a room and you can all play together and have the music come out on the speakers. I'm not sure. Here's another version of turning pages with the paper bending or bending over or ripping off and falling off like the calendar pages in old movies did when they wanted to show that you were going back into the past. The introduction of trays or lines of images in newsreaders was quite innovative a number of years ago. It was reusing 35 millimeter slide viewing trays, which I think some people may remember from an older medium. Not all menu selections have to be vertical or horizontal like some user interfaces present them. Even Apple now has some curvilinear displays of elements to show the latest downloaded files. I still find these somewhat stupid and unappealing, but that's my opinion. Other people may love it. But I prefer myself more geometric arrangements like this than the kind of loosely curvilinear one that Apple currently uses. Many people have developed applications in the photo area to make funny things, strange things happen, and they've been very, very successful. I mean, Instagram was bought by Facebook, yes, for several unbelievable $1 billion. And there are so many of these now that there is an application called Normalize, which will take any weird photo image and turn it back to what it should have been in the original. Some of the user interfaces try to simulate old-fashioned photographic instruments. I think that this is reproducing the Rollei 35 millimeter camera, which I have one of from 20, 30 years ago. It was a wonderful, wonderful camera with an excellent lens, and it looked very similar to this. Here are examples of old-fashioned color, strange color distortions that can be fed to places in the cloud to keep people informed of your latest camera tricks. Here's one called Camera Fun Pro that will turn any photograph into a drawing, if that appeals to you. Another development, most of you are aware of messaging with little dialogue cartoon balloons to show the elements of the dialogue. And it's only natural that there would come into being applications like Cartoomic, where you can add any cartoon dialogue balloon to any photo, so you can have people making comments about them, and you can style the type of cartoon balloon and add other visual effects. It's even possible to buy cartoon-like buttons for your applications. Excuse me. And I suspect that a next stage for some entrepreneur is to develop, oops, I forgot. Is to develop an entire cartoon-like vision of your operating system. I don't know if anyone offers that yet. We developed such an approach back in the 90s for airline reservation agents. They did not like this cartoon-like version at all. They preferred a more realistic depiction at the top left. And why is that? Because if they looked at this cartoon-like version, it made it seem as though what they were doing was childlike, infantile, and they wanted to be seen as professionals, adult professionals. So they viewed that as insulting. And it was in that year, 1994, that I first realized that the user interface that we look into is not only a window to data, but is a mirror of my self-perceptions and how I view myself. That was a very powerful experience. With some photo applications now, in mobile versions, you can do all kinds of things that you could do before on very expensive cameras, and they can be accomplished pretty well in mobile phone apps. Do any of you know the Litro camera? Some of you do. It is able to capture 11 megarays, not pixels, which allows you to selectively focus the image after you've taken the picture. And that's quite remarkable. It's a little device all by itself. I do not know of anyone yet who has put it into a mobile phone kind of application or piece of equipment or platform. Here's another excuse me, far-fetched camera, more than a concept, there are working versions of a gigapixel camera which features 100 small cameras in a circle around a circular lens, or spherical lens. And this camera, which was reported on in the Wall Street Journal, but I'm sure you can find it elsewhere, is able to take large panoramic views where if you take a tiny, tiny portion of this image, you can still get what we would take to be normal high-definition pixel images. At the time, it was available only in black and white, and it was supposed to come out in mid-2013 in color. There were customers for this camera, like the Central Intelligence Agency and others, who want to take pictures of you and see what you're reading on a newspaper, if you still read newspapers, or on your e-book, and actually be able to read from a satellite what you're looking at. That's how fine the definition is. We see in the video realm the same growth of video apps that can make things look old-fashioned or different, and with user interfaces on the apps themselves that remind you of the previous generations and decades of equipment. There's even one application that will add scratches to your video, like movie equipment used to make when it would run film through, and sometimes little pieces of dirt or sand would permanently scratch the emulsion of the film, and you get these white vertical streaks. I think in 2013, this was one of the first uses of an iPhone to finish a major motion picture. They ran out of time, they didn't have the equipment rented anymore, and the director took out his iPhone and shot the rest of it on his iPhone, and that went into the movie, which was impressive. All of these are getting closer and closer together in abilities. Some people think Samsung's had a peak and is starting to topple. HTC has had a stall in sales, although they have very nicely reviewed designs. One of the, I think I'll stop about here unless I see something else interesting coming up. One of the developments in Windows, especially Windows 8, was the use of tiled layouts like this, which were interesting to me personally because this kind of visual design and layout of using large symbols, large typography, like you see here at the top left of that window, were very reminiscent of a style from the 1950s and 60s called Swiss-German graphic design. And there are some masters of this approach in Germany, like the Ulm School for Design, Otto Eicher in Switzerland, Joseph Müller-Brockmann, and others who emphasized clear gridded layouts, consistent design, bold depiction of visual material. And if you want to read more about that, I have some URLs here. Many other manufacturers besides Microsoft have adopted this kind of approach of a change of scale, clear depiction in symbolism, etc. Another major market is older people like myself who have a lot of money to throw out for equipment and have particular vision problems or hearing problems that need to be taken into account. And there are more and more mobile devices, health devices, etc. that take into account that particular market and its needs. And there are some countries like Japan where it's well known by about 2020 or 2030, it will have the largest percentage of old people of any country in the world. So even in 2003, I believe, there was a universal design conference in Japan sponsored by many of the major corporations thinking about designing for the elderly or the less able people of the population, because they knew that they were going to have to face consumers who needed certain kinds of equipment that currently manufacturers were not supplying. All right, now we're about 40 minutes into my time. I'm going to skip the rest of these, which will introduce some themes that I'll now introduce in another presentation. And as I switch, let me ask if you have any questions so far on any of what I've shown or said. You're all resting and asleep. Maybe afterwards. So, in the other presentation, I mentioned that seniors and health-related applications are important. We have been working for 5 years on concept designs built around combining information design with persuasion design to change people's behavior in mobile devices. I'll show you just one example. Along the way, I've published about 14 books and about 200 or 300 articles. We've worked for many major corporations. We help set up centers of excellence for UX design, information design, and visualization. And we've been working on this combination of motivation and persuasion in the design of mobile apps, as I say, for 5 years. I'm right now writing up chapters for a book that will show all of the work we've been doing and make that available to interested readers. It should be out early next year. So persuasion, after you motivate people to actually look at something, which is a matter of branding and advertising sometimes, of getting attention, showing that something is relevant, giving people confidence that they can do something useful with the product, like buying soap or buying toothpaste or using a particular application, and giving them immediate satisfaction in that experience. You need to attract them for ongoing use of the application. You have to help them get started. You need to connect them with other people doing similar things, provide them with tips, and change their short-term and long-term behavior. That's what we tried to do in these concept designs. And we were very much influenced by the writings of B.J. Fogg at Stanford University, Robert Cialdini, who's written about the science of persuasion, and Abraham Maslow, whom you may know from a very old article and other articles on basic human needs. We know that mobile media are changing social media and transforming society, often combining entertainment into informational applications, and providing people with ways to review and share opinions. I haven't shown you in this previous PowerPoint, but I believe it's in the collection of articles that I've sent to you. This new phenomenon, which I'm sure some of you know about. I am embarrassed to say I can't quite remember the name in China, but it's basically going to movies, if you still go to a theater, and being able to text your comments and have them appear on the large screen. Does anyone remember the name for that? Rajagin or Kankadin or something strange. I just can't remember it. And in one of the images, these text messages are almost obliterating anything you can see of the actual original movie. And some people look at that and say, this is ridiculous. Who wants to see all these inane comments? But it's very, very popular in China with 15 to 25-year-olds. They would rather see someone's comment about what they thought they were looking at, or even say, hey, I like that cute girl over there in the third row. And use it as a social interaction medium, where adults would say, the world is going crazy, we don't need this. Mobile devices, there are about 6 billion of them worldwide. They're always cheaper, faster, smarter, and they are our primary communication link in China, India, US, and Brazil for sure. China and India have almost the same, in 2012, almost the same number of mobile devices, roughly 4 times the amount of the US, and Brazil is not far behind. So in all of these mobile devices, we were trying to combine 5 major things which we think have to be in really smart applications that can connect people and change their behavior. Dashboards to tell you where you are now in your journey. Process model or worldview to tell you where you came from and where you're going on your journey. A journey to better health, a journey to better education, a journey to a better marriage, a journey to good traveling, etc. Focused social networking. Not 5,000 of your Facebook friends, but who are the 5 or 10 people that you can really count on who are interested in your journey, who care about you and your success. Maybe your parents, family relatives, really close friends, etc. Tips and advice. Not 10 million things that are a result of some random Google search, but what are the 5 or 10 things that you need to know right now, depending on where you are in your journey? Not everybody's journey, your journey. And finally, incentives, games, competitions, rewards, awards, nostalgia shops, workshops, whatever helps to keep people motivated and interested in continuing on that journey. Now I noticed just recently, we've been saying this for 5 years, I noticed that Facebook has just introduced, I forget what it's called, like Facebook Plus, like Google Plus, I don't remember the name of it, maybe some of you know it, but it's a focused topic friends network, a Facebook friends network. I don't remember the name for it, but it was clearly what we were getting at 5 years ago. Only, again, you'll have 5,000 people there, all jumping into this particular topic, like meetup groups around the US and maybe around Europe as well. Here are the 10 machines. We actually have one other right here. So we've developed the green machine to change people's behavior about conserving energy, the health machine to increase attention to nutrition and exercise to avoid obesity and type 2 diabetes, which is a scourge throughout the US, Europe, India, and China as well. The money machine, which is helping baby boomers to save and spend money appropriately now that they're living longer so they don't run out of money before they die. The story machine, to increase storytelling from grandparents to children to grandchildren, because more and more people are living in distributed locations, not in one family house, with multi-generation families, sometimes speaking different languages. The innovation machine, helping people in corporations, everyone, to know how to innovate and join with others to get ideas to move forward, to lead to improvements in internal processes or end result products and services. The travel machine, to help make people better cultural travelers, not just leisure and business travelers. The driving machine, to improve people as safe drivers and as sustainable drivers, you know, for sustainability. The learning machine, to improve learning techniques in MOOCs or virtual and e-learning systems. The happiness machine, to help make people happier. However happy you are, there is happiness theory all around the world, including all the major world religions, that focus on doing good deeds, being positive, journaling, etc. And we have, in a prototype version, embodied these techniques into a mobile app. And finally, the marriage machine, helping people to have better marriages, since half the marriages or more are failing in Europe or North America. And it doesn't necessarily mean boy-girl, it can mean boy-boy, girl-girl, boy-machine, whatever works, as in her. Some of them have won some awards. I'll take you through just quickly the green machine, where in houses there have been electric meters to register how much electricity has been used for decades, but no one ever looked at these. Now smart meters can inform the utility company and the consumer how they are doing at using energy. You can have other data added to this, like social media, games, entertainment. It means a challenge to recognize the patterns of energy use. There are applications like Spotfire and Lifelines that have shown how you can discover patterns of scientific or medical data and gain insight. Only now we need that for everybody, for consumers, just to look at, like my wife does every day, how did I sleep last night? You could ask yourself, how did I use energy yesterday or last week? And there are social media examples where people are self-organizing into data groups to share data and to bring it together in one place that might not normally be made available, a kind of community mashup. Excuse me. There are commercial companies, Flickr and Google, that provide means of amassing data more and more on the cloud, more and more different kinds of data being mashed up together, but they often aren't exactly what we need. The government in the US, as well as Microsoft, back in the 4 years ago, were introducing applications to help people make themselves aware of energy use. Google introduced the power meter technology, which was a step in the right direction. I've been involved with visualizing global energy interdependence for more than 30 years. At the East-West Center, I worked with a team to design a set of symbols, charts, maps, and diagrams to make this information available. We published articles about what we did, but we didn't change the world. It takes a lot of effort and sometimes a very long time. Al Gore took 20 or 30 years to convince people about global warming around the world. But with feedback through a mobile device, for example, consumers, everyone, business people, can achieve easily a 10% energy consumption reduction by just the kind of information they need to look at. Did you? Sorry? Am I running out of time?
No, we have a reservation for the whole day here, so.
I thought a new class was coming in. There have been tests that have shown that people can reduce energy use if given information. Of course, a lot of the utility companies are using pricing models to force people to wash their clothes at non-peak times, etc. But we felt that to change behavior was important and could be accomplished by taking the wisdom of persuasion theory and combining it with the information necessary for managing home electrical use and doing it from mobile phones. At the time that we started that project, there were almost no mobile phone apps. So we created the Green Machine to do that. We created mom, dad, the children as personas, and a simple use scenario of trying to save energy at home and seeing how improvements are going. We developed a 5-step persuasion process, and there are many techniques which can be applied. We've published this machine as well as all of the others, and we're going to publish the final one next. Actually, we'll be publishing it in Chinese in November, but in English in June or July. So all this information is available in detail about the techniques used. To improve the frequency of use, you can offer rewards. Even making this well-designed from a user-centered point of view can accomplish that. For some people, for motivation, viewing the future of the world can be motivating because they're concerned about their children or grandchildren. You can use some of Maslow's human needs like safety and security or self-esteem and build that into the application. Competition and challenges can be very useful for not all people, but some people. B.J. Fogg has written about captology. What will capture people with technology and keep them coming back, and has even written a book called Mobile Persuasion in 2007 and Persuasive Technology, and he ran at least one of the persuasive technology conferences. Cialdini has written a very good article called The Science of Persuasion in Scientific American, so it's available in German. And he has a list of factors that influence persuading people, which can be incorporated into any application. Social networks, suggestion boxes, feedback. I'm going quickly because we're almost out of time. Especially visual feedback and social interaction all contribute to making an impact and leading to little bits of behavior change that add up over time. So we created a conceptual information architecture for our application. If it were sitting on the iPhone, but it could be on Android or any other platform, and you went to the application, you would see a chart of your latest energy use against your goals and some data about what that was like. You would see up here at the top of the screen a little indicator of how energy efficient you were. Right now you cannot put things up there because Apple and Android and everybody else controls that part of the phone, but maybe there'll be a mass movement to convince them to do something. You could compare your use with someone else in a kind of competition, a friendly competition. You could look at your usage over time and see how you did on weekends versus weekdays. You could see a fake newspaper of the future showing how many animal life forms have died, how many species have disappeared because of your energy use right now, or how many more wars there are, or how many more millions of people are thirsty and don't have water. Actually, I've just seen news with dire predictions about the disappearance of animal species because of global warming. And we've done a project for SAP to look at the coming crisis for all megacities of the earth, those with 10 million or more people. They're all running out of water because they've drained the water tables faster than they can be resupplied by natural means. And not everyone can tow a giant iceberg from, if there is any ice left at the North or South Pole, to tow that to Sao Paulo or Shanghai or New York City to give people drinking water. So we're going to have to make some big changes. You can find other people who share your needs or vision, sort of like Facebook friends for this particular topic. We designed many other sketches. We talked about evaluating these cross-culturally because such an application in the North America would be different than in Europe and would be different in China or India. We did test briefly. We evaluated it with a few people of different ages. They all said, oh yes, this is great. Oh yes, this will change my life. But they were looking at paper prototypes and they weren't really using it over a long period of time. So it wasn't a real test, but it was all we could do in the time. Available, which is 3 months. We have done this with interns, self-funded. So all of this information is open intellectual property. We don't hide it, we don't keep it. We give it away to whoever wants to build on top of this. Here are the revised screen designs, including some metrics for how green a product really is. We've provided, I'm acknowledging all the people who helped on that particular one, and we have exhibited and shown these around the world since then. We've provided bibliographies, and if you, again, send me your email on that sheet of paper, I'll send you several of the machine publications. I can't easily send them all, they're too big in megabytes. So that's about 1 hour of mobile UX thoughts, and I'd be happy to take your questions. Thank you.